What could traders in New York possibly have in common with monkeys in the Amazon? Well, soon their money might depend on the same trees. At the COP30 climate summit, Brazil is pitching a radical new idea. A global fund that invests like a bank. But instead of only shareholders getting rich, the goal is to pay countries for every hectare of rainforest they protect. It sounds simple, but like everything in finance, it's complicated. Brazil aims to raise $125 billion, about the size of Sweden's entire annual government budget. It's huge. And if it works, it could rewrite how we protect the planet. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of it, let's see how big the problem it's trying to fix is. Rainforests are like giant green factories. They regulate our global climate, our water cycle, and they store carbon. They are also the planet's medicine cabinet. An estimated 80% of people in developing countries rely on plant-based medicines according to the UN. And about a quarter of modern drugs come from plants, many from rainforests we barely studied. So when we lose a forest, we not only potentially make ourselves sick, we may also be destroying the cure for tomorrow's diseases. The scale of destruction in 2024 shocked even the experts. The world lost 6.7 million hectares of tropical primary rainforest, an area bigger than Panama. And this is massively contributing to global warming. Fires and clearing released an estimated 3.1 billion tons of CO2. That's more than the world's most populous country, India's annual fossil fuel emissions. Brazil alone accounted for 2.82 million hectares of loss. That's 42% of global forest loss. Most of it fueled by the worst drought in 7 decades. Bolivia came next. Its forest loss almost tripled compared to last year. Then Congo, Indonesia, and Peru. It's a green leaderboard, but one that can change. Because there are reasons for hope. Both Indonesia and Malaysia have managed to reverse deforestation drastically. Brazil once did it too, cutting rates by 80% in under a decade. That means policy works, when it lasts. And Brazil wants to prove it can last. This time not just through expanding monitoring or increasing enforcement or fines, but through a new global financing plan called the Tropical Forests Forever Facility, or TFFF. It's a proposal to make forests worth more standing than cut down.
It's going to be a permanent instrument that's going to help keeping the forest up in these tropical countries, not just Brazil. Brazil also, it's very important, but in countries as Congo and Indonesia as well.
Countries that keep their tropical forests intact would receive long-term payments from an international fund, a kind of climate dividend for protecting life on Earth. The fund is designed to reach $125 billion with seed money from public donors to attract private investors. Once it's operational, it won't depend on yearly budgets or changing presidents. That's the whole idea, to protect the forest from politics.
What sets TFFF apart is that for the long run, independent of political waves, it can provide funding for forest protection to tropical forest countries.
If paying money to keep forests alive sounds ambitious, there is one small country that proved the idea isn't a fantasy. In the 1990s, Costa Rica started paying farmers and landowners to keep their forests standing, rewarding them for the water they protect, the carbon they store, and the biodiversity they sustain. Within 2 decades, the country doubled its rainforest cover. But those payments depended on national budgets, which could shrink with a new government. And Brazil knows that better than anyone. Progress can vanish with a single election cycle. So how does it work? The idea is that sponsor states like Brazil, Indonesia, China, and developed nations like Germany, Sweden put money into the fund, which will be invested on the financial markets. That money will be used to cover losses for private investors if the markets dip, encouraging more investment from private sector, which will make up the majority of the fund, letting finance flow into the forests instead of fossil fuels. The returns will then be used in part to pay tropical countries to protect their rainforests. What's unique about the TFFF isn't just the size, it's the time frame. The fund runs for 40 years, long enough to ride out crashes and still deliver returns.
There are big institutional investors like insurances. In Germany, imagine Allianz. They offer products like life insurance, where you have a very long timeline. So Allianz needs to invest in financial products that have a very low risk. That's, for example, Germany's bonds, Staatsanleihen. That prevents them generally from investing in developing countries. And TFFF tries to bridge that. TFFF offers someone like Allianz now to say, you will get your pretty safe return for years to come. And we open for you a new possibility of countries where you normally cannot invest. And at the same time, you contribute to forest protection because that is in your interest as well, because as an insurance company, you really do not want climate change to accelerate further.
So this is how it's supposed to work. States put an initial $25 billion into the fund. Private investors put up 4 times as much. The fund invests in different portfolios around the world. The aim is to generate around 7.6% yearly returns on investment. That's roughly $9 billion. 2/3 of it will go to private investors as returns, and the remaining around $3 billion will go to the successful tropical rainforest countries. And if for some reason that year's returns lead to losses, the billions from the sponsor states will compensate the investors.
It should be seen as an investment, not as a grant.
But not all tropical countries can get a piece of that money. To access the fund, a nation's 3-year average deforestation must stay below 0.5%. Those that make the cut receive $4 per hectare of untouched forest. But for each newly deforested hectare, they lose between $400 to $800. Around 54% of the world's intact forests are found on indigenous lands. That's why 20% of the funds will go directly to the indigenous communities.
Indigenous peoples have been the guardians of the forest. They have not been going just for economic incentives. They have been protecting the forest by their own beliefs and their recognition of the importance of nature and biodiversity. Rewarding them with 20% now is exactly the right step.
But it's not all roses. Since the TFFF is a financial instrument, experts warn that there is a risk. A global financial crash could completely wipe out the fund, for example. And there's the other problem: where the fund will be invested. If your forest fund ends up putting money into coal and oil or other climate-damaging industries, well, congratulations, you just paid to chop down the thing you were trying to say. But once you exclude those industries, the pool of safe bonds shrinks and generating a healthy return becomes harder.
TFFF is an innovative instrument. It can really help make a difference in reducing deforestation. Countries like Germany should clearly support the initiative, but it is important that Germany guarantees that no investments by TFFF flow into fossil fuels, that there is the maximum transparency in the financial model, and that there are environmental and social safeguards established.
The investors will get their yearly return, plus their first investment at the end of the 40-year period. And we might end up recovering our tropical forests. It sounds like a good deal. But it is unprecedented. A climate finance moonshot that could either redefine conservation or become an expensive experiment. If it works, TFFF could finally flip the logic and make living trees worth more than the dead ones.